All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to unpack a really powerful blueprint for marriage. We're going to look at why so many of us hit this wall of frustration in our relationships and how, believe it or not, one simple decision and one new skill can completely change the game. So if you've ever felt stuck or just disconnected, this one's for you. It turns out that most relationships follow a surprisingly predictable path. It all kicks off with stage one, romantic love. And you know exactly what this feels like. It's that incredible, can't eat, can't sleep, can't get enough of each other high. But here's the thing. That stage is temporary. It can last a few months, maybe a couple of years. And from there, we move into commitment. And then, almost inevitably, we land in the toughest phase of all, the power struggle. And this quote, it just nails what happens when reality sets in during that commitment stage. See, you're not just two people in love anymore. You're trying to merge two completely different worlds with all their habits and expectations. And all of a sudden, the way they chew their food or leave their socks on the floor isn't quirky or cute anymore. It's just wrong. And that friction, it can lead you to ask a really scary question. Oh my gosh, did I marry the wrong person? Well, all that friction just keeps building and building until it explodes into what we call the power struggle. This is the crisis point. It's where you start to feel that connection fade, you feel really alone, and you start to wonder, is this really all there is? For most couples, this really painful stage leads to one of three predictable and, frankly, pretty unhappy outcomes. So, what are the options here? Well, the first is what's called a hot marriage, and that's not hot in a good way. It's a state of constant conflict, just a perpetual tug of war. The second option is a parallel marriage, which is where you just avoid fighting by living like roommates. You manage the kids and the bills, but you're emotionally miles apart. And the third path, which about half of all couples end up taking, is divorce. The real problem is all three of these roads just lead to more pain and more disconnection. But what if I told you there's another way to look at this? Here's a radical reframe for you. What if all that conflict isn't a sign that your marriage is broken? What if it's actually a signal that it's time for growth? Now, this idea is a total game changer. It means the power struggle isn't some dead-end street. It's actually a doorway to something so much better. And that doorway, it leads to a powerful alternative, the connected partnership. This is the goal. This is where you finally stop being adversaries fighting against each other and you start becoming teammates working with each other. So what does a connected partnership actually feel like? Well, it really boils down to three key things. First up is safety. You feel free to be 100% yourself without any fear of being judged or criticized. Second, communication. You know you can speak your mind and, most importantly, you will actually be heard. And third, partnering. You face life's problems as a unified team, not as opponents in a ring. Okay, so how in the world do you get there? Well, think of it like building a house. And the blueprint is actually incredibly simple. It just takes one core decision and one new skill. And funnily enough, we're going to start with the roof. The very first step is making one crucial decision together. You and your partner agree to put a protective roof over your marriage. This is called the no negativity pledge. And it's all about one thing, creating immediate emotional safety by agreeing to just stop the behaviors that are poisoning the very air between you. So what are these poisons? We're talking about getting rid of all shame, all blame, and all criticism. And yeah, this also means cutting out the hurtful just kidding humor and the biting sarcasm, because every single time one of these shows up, it's like pouring acid on your connection. So this pledge stops the damage cold and gives you a safe space where you can actually start to rebuild. So once the roof is on and the damage is contained, it's time to build the internal structure, the drywall. And this requires learning one new skill. It's a structured way of communicating called the couple's dialogue. This is the tool that finally allows both of you to feel equally seen and heard. Okay, let's break this thing down. The couple's dialogue is a totally learnable three-step process, and it's designed to completely shift the goal of your conversations. You're no longer talking at each other. You're creating a space where one person's only job is to listen. Here are the three steps. Step one is mirroring. The listener simply repeats or paraphrases what they just heard and then asks, "Did I get that?" And that's it, nothing else. Step two is validation. You affirm their point of view by saying something like, "You know what you're saying makes sense." And third is empathizing, where you try to connect to the feeling behind their words, maybe by saying, "I can imagine you might be feeling really frustrated or maybe sad about that." Now, this part is absolutely crucial. You have to understand what mirroring is not. It is not your chance to jump in and defend yourself or explain your side or try to fix their problem. Nope. Your only job is to be a mirror for their words. And trust me, this is way harder than it sounds, but it's so powerful because it forces your brain to stop cooking up a response and just listen. And let's get crystal clear on validation, because this is where most people get tripped up. Validating your partner's feelings does not, I repeat, does not mean you agree with them. It just means you're acknowledging their reality. You're basically saying, I can see how, from your perspective, that makes perfect sense. This one distinction is the key that unlocks the whole thing. So, why do these simple little tools work so incredibly well? It's because they tap into one of the most fundamental, deep-seated human needs we all have in a relationship. At the very core of it all, this is the question every single one of us is asking our partner, whether we say it out loud or not. This is the subconscious cry of our hearts. And you know what? Most of our fights and our frustrations are just clumsy attempts to get an answer to this one question. When the answer to that question is finally, truly yes, everything changes. When your partner really hears you, a safe space just opens up between you. Your defenses can finally come down. Real healing can actually begin. Your dignity gets restored, and you start to feel valued and fully alive in your relationship again. So, I want to leave you with this final, powerful question to think about. We spend so much time and energy trying to win arguments, trying to be right, but what if the goal of communication wasn't to agree? What if it was simply to understand? What if you made it your mission just to see the world from their side of the street, even for a moment? How do you think that one little shift could change everything?